All right, guys, we are back with another episode on here on Elevated Lifestyle Lab podcast. We have a cool episode for you guys today. We got two guys I met out on the golf course from Athlete's Dream. Welcome, guys. How we doing?
Doing
Awesome.
good, doing good.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited for it today, guys. So this was most of my listeners might know that I picked up a JV golf coaching job out at Benjamin, a local school here, and we were out at a match, and I saw you guys walking along. The varsity team was out playing, the JV teams were out. There's a bunch of teams out there playing, and I offered you guys some water. Saw your guys' logos on your shirt. I'm like,
hot.
hey, what's that?
It was a hot day.
Yeah, super hot.
Much appreciated.
And I saw your guys' logo, and I asked you guys what you're doing out here. We briefly exchanged names and numbers. Found you guys on Instagram, and it's really fascinating for what you guys do. So I wanted to bring you guys in. The priority of since I'm coaching the high schoolers and stuff, I think it would be a great use to be able to send this out to upcoming students and kind of give them a pathway to you guys to help you guys do what you do.
Absolutely.
So if you guys want to start, maybe give us a little background on like what Athlete Streams is. And
For sure. I mean, probably go back to January 2015. We really started Athlete's Dream, and I mean, I had an older brother that played D1 college golf at UAB. He was an NJCAA champion, transferred into D1 golf, and then seeing him go through that process was really the motivator. I realized there must be so many kids out there that, they miss opportunities, not because they're not good enough, but just because they didn't necessarily get seen at the right time. And often, the kids don't get seen early enough. So, to sort of go back to the start, it was early 2015. And it's amazing now to reflect on, athletes actually being in, 98 universities, I think. We're just shy of athletes being in 100 universities in America.
Oh, cool that you guys have placed them in.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, I grew up, I was an athlete in Australia, but I played Aussie rules footy and in cricket and road crew a little bit. But,
Yeah, a little different, yeah.
I wasn't 6'6", 250 and going to Harvard, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
It wasn't going to happen. And most athletes in Australia, for example, would be that way. So it was just a good experience to start there. But what's interesting now is those athletes we've helped are in 18 sports. They're from 8 countries. And, we've got some really exciting talent here in Florida. Like we have a softball pitcher just took a full ride to Jacksonville, which is awesome for fall of 22. And we have a softball girl down at SEU in Lakeland. And we had a girl just sign with Seminole State. They were 2021 NJCAA golf women's team, and Poppy Harrington's going there. And so it's been, it's amazing. It's been a really great journey, and it's sort of how we got started and how we're here. But we're excited about the future.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine how everything's like you're saying, like people don't get seen early enough, or they're not educated on what they need to be doing. So they'll come to you sophomore year, junior year, like, hey man, I got a bunch of C's, I got like a 2.5. You think I can get into it? Like you're like, oh man, you missed it. So I'm sure that's I can only imagine how many go through the ringer that have no idea that you guys are even around.
For sure. I mean, I think a lot of people, maybe they mispick subjects too in their junior and senior year of high school. And therefore they're not NCAA eligible. They could be a D1, D2 full ride athlete, but getting prepared at freshman year, really, freshman, sophomore year.
The earlier the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And because also like the coaches realistically, if you want to go D1 top level and get a full ride, a lot of kids freshman year are good enough. But unless you get put in front of those coaches at that age, we just had Oregon reach out to one of our track girls direct, because the timing for her class of 23 had opened up for direct communication from the coach. But, Athlete's Dream was working with that young girl for 2 years prior. And it's almost like, while the coach can't talk to the student athlete direct, they know that if there's a respectable agent in between, a lot of information and recruitment questionnaires and so on can be passed between, the agent and the family.
So much can be accomplished that I don't think parents really understand, because they're not in that world. They wouldn't even know how to reach out to a coach, let alone what to say to a coach if they actually were in front of one. And, like you were saying, Ash, sophomore year, 10th grade, that's when they can start talking to the players. But when you have somebody representing you, you have a go-between that's there for you every day in front of the coach. And it's almost like, if you want a job, you gotta have a resume and apply to it to get the job. You can't just be like, oh man, they didn't hire me. You
Right.
actually have to go about getting it. So I think that's one of the most crucial things as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it helps. I mean, just from the research I was doing and stuff, I was looking at like different questions that students asked, coaches or recruiters, and it was funny because like most of all of it was like, what don't ask the coaches, because so many young kids will ask these outrageous questions.
For
So
sure.
they're just like it might just completely kick you out of like the option
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
getting
like
it.
blows the coach away.
Yeah, there was like
yeah.
tons of videos just on what not to say. So
Absolutely.
So I'm sure. So you mentioned they can start talking to him in the sophomore year. So,
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
That's when
Interesting.
NCAA really allows it to start happening. It's an age thing too, because obviously some sophomores are older than others
Right.
depending on
Start
when
dates.
you're born. But that's
Yep.
it's a rough draft of when you can really start.
Absolutely.
And when you say so, it really helps to come to you guys before high school starts or right around that time, right? Because you're saying you almost need to set up the academic side to fit if you're for whatever path you're trying to go down, right?
For sure. And I think also like the SAT exam and the ACT,
For sure.
it's something that's forgotten about. But I think a lot of kids, especially, to think locally in Palm Beach County, a lot of the schools would have the kids taking an SAT, even in 8th grade sometimes. And you can take the SAT as many times as you need to get the best score possible. So there's a good chance that take it early, take it again in sophomore year, and even take it again in senior year.
Especially
but it's
maximize
testing
pre-ACTs,
prep.
pre-SATs. It costs a little bit of money, to get a tutor, even maybe to get an early test. But it's really good to set that watermark for yourself of where you're at, so you know what to work on. So if you do have to take it again, at least you have a strategy or a field of what needs to be strengthened for whatever you're lacking in that SAT or ACT.
Yeah.
And how does the process work? Do a lot of the athletes come looking for you? I'm assuming you got to do a lot of looking yourself. And as far as like, because you guys are worldwide, you're in Australia. I was seeing the guy in Mexico and the
Absolutely.
United States. I mean, you guys are everywhere. So how does that work for you guys?
Not enough places.
yeah, growing.
No,
Yeah,
good question. I mean, a lot of the international stuff has happened word of mouth. We picked up a couple of great athletes in a certain sport, and then they were able to, just tell a friend. And we never actually advertised in Australia per se, which was incredible.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's amazing that the word of mouth did well, and I think we anticipate a similar type of development in the United States. We're very community orientated when we meet the family. It's very like, who are they affiliated with? What are the parents doing to support the student athlete in their sport? How serious are they really on the pathway?
Yeah.
Because every parent and their children, it's a different situation when it comes to their sport, and whether or not, like, some parents are super involved, some are a little less involved.
Sure.
And that's where, of course, we as agents can really step in, and it's almost like a teacher-student relationship throughout, where you're really guiding them on things that sometimes, there isn't the right resources at the school to guide them accurately. But then also the key component is the college coach connections.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, of course, meeting the right programs. And I mean, we have a pretty comprehensive marketing process with the way we build every athlete their own website.
Most definitely.
I think, I've been in college recruitment really for over a decade now around the world. And you mentioned all the locations, and I've sort of seen it all in, sign up for free, get a profile here, you talk to a coach today.
right, yeah.
It's all very that
Headliney.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like modern day now. Whereas the reality is, it's about long-term relationships and actually working together over a period of time. When you meet a family and their son or daughter is only 15 or 16, when it comes to that final phone call with a coach and they're offering the full ride and the paperwork's being issued and it's been 3 years,
Ugh,
Yeah.
that's a real relationship that got
Yeah.
developed. So it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even realize like how big the because this is my third year that I did for the JV coaching job,
Oh, cool.
and I didn't even realize what entailed for varsity, right? Because my first year there, I was talking with another coach from the other team, and he does both varsity and JV, and he's telling me about all the hours he's doing. I mean, they play 18 holes compared to 9 holes. They're traveling around the state of Florida, and then it comes to the college part. Like, you have to have connection. If your kid wants to go to college, they're gonna, and so there's a whole, like you're saying, like, you have to have the connections. You got to know who to talk to, what questions to ask.
Who now. I mean, everybody knows something, but not everybody knows somebody that can actually get it done.
Yeah, the right way.
Right.
True.
Right. Yeah.
And then for real, if you're a very good student athlete and you're represented the right way, you're gonna have more than one good offer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not for everyone at the top end. You've got to be good. We know this. But like we had a swimmer recently, she's at Texas A&M on a full ride. I mean, she turned down the University of Miami. She turned down LSU.
Go Seminoles.
Yeah, UCLA. But again, you could get offered a full ride to like a UCLA, but then if the academics aren't quite there, it's almost as hard as an Ivy League or Stanford and these types. So,
it's really the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Like you could be top rank at whatever sport you're in, and you got a D average. That's
not gonna take you anywhere,
they're not
right?
gonna take you. You're hitting dingers in junior college now, and there's nothing wrong with that because that's more of a path that a lot of people are taking junior college because it really, the doors it can open to D1, and I mean it's a direct
Gradually
feeder
work
system.
yourself up, yeah.
But don't put yourself in that position if you don't have to.
Yeah,
maybe get some B's.
yeah, for sure. Do some homework.
Do some homework. Just a little
Yeah. Well, kind of walk me through the process. If somebody was coming to you, as a freshman, and the parents are looking for this opportunity, they call you up, say, they're interested in this sport, and how does it go from there? Kind
of. For sure. I mean, I'll pick a random sport, like lacrosse. It's not as popular as some in some regards, or not as well talked about.
Growing.
Yeah. So, because obviously in some sports like football, basketball, a lot of the key recruitment is taken care of, honestly, at the really, really high level. And baseball, and that's reality. There's some pretty organized recruitment structures and so on. So if a freshman family, came to us, male, female, lacrosse player, that first year or that freshman year, most of it is about academic preparation and being sure that they're on the right path and that they've picked the right subjects freshman year. And then, of course, being prepared for sophomore year to sort of carry that through. The academic side, you need to have the 16 core NCAA subjects when you graduate senior year. So that's why it is so key to get those right subjects in early, because you might miss credits that you can't get back in a way later on in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Freshman and sophomore year too, when it comes to actually being marketed to the coach, is a really important time. I mean, you might be one of the very, very best locally in the county, in the state, and at 14 or 15, 16, it's more like I believe you can throw a blanket across the talent, and it's in those next couple years at 16, 17, 18.
It really develops.
Yeah, the real, as they say, the cream rises to the top, and like the very, very best players stand out, and that's why they end up getting the D1 full rides, be it male or female in any sport. So, to come back to that with the lacrosse player example, that freshman and sophomore year, it's just academic prep, and then starting to be introduced to the coaches, because come the start of like junior year, the offers will start to be made by the coaches. And then early signing period is, of course, November, sort of
for most sports,
9 to 10 months before actual intake. So, yeah.
And then how does it work payment-wise? I'm sure, obviously, as agents, so it's probably percentage-based, but how does that intertwine? Because I'm sure over years you're working with these kids.
Absolutely.
How does that tie in?
Yeah. So we have a ranging consulting fee.
Okay.
And it depends on how long you're working with Athlete Stream. So we do have families that come to us and they're like a senior. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
even transfers.
I was even yesterday speaking to a young boy in Bangalore, India, a long jumper, Lokesh Satinathe, and I mean his best long jump distance is 7 meters 94. He could be like a top 5 D1,
That's
just
insane.
like
You're jumping cars.
Yeah. This whole room like way over, like crazy.
So for a guy like that's an international example, but that's a transfer like Nick touched on, and usually we can carry out a transfer for an existing kid for sort of $2,500. That sort of fee does sneak in there, but
sure,
the ranging consulting fees for a freshman, sophomore, junior, like traditional type of recruitment, it can get up towards $7,500, like for a total all-encompassing service. But again, those sort of numbers are only talked about with the families once they're fully evaluated. Once we know that we can provide them with a realistic expectation and like a realistic timeline, that's meeting their expectation too.
Sure.
I think that's critical.
And it's also like Ash is touching on, it's a consulting, so it's never one size fits all.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially with
Everybody's needs are different.
exactly expectations are something that we really hone in on.
Yep.
Like Ash was saying, it can go from transfer to freshman year coverage starts, and if that's the case, the best way to look at it is freshman year to senior year is 4 years. That's 4 years of your child, your student athlete being represented, and I think what a lot of people miss out on, and expectation wise, is they don't expect how quickly it all happens and starts to happen, and they think, okay, the process has started, and then the rock's rolling down the mountain. They're like, yeah. So that's part of it too.
How does it work, since you had mentioned him being internationally? How does it work for doing those core classes if you wanted to do the NCAA, but internationally? I don't know if they have them, and those. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's more of a challenge.
Yeah.
I think something we're excited about in engaging with more American families and local families is they have such a great existing knowledge of the NCAA. And when we're talking to those families overseas in other countries, there's an initial education process on what the NCAA is, the fact that there's even an eligibility center. If they're not speaking English as a first language, they have to do the TOEFL test on top of SAT. So,
not to mention getting here. People don't think of travel, insurance, and
absolutely.
Kid needs a cell phone. He's gonna have to eat something. So
right.
that's, like Ash was saying. There's families out there, 7,500 just to get here. On top of that, plus the program, plus what we provide, it's
adds up.
Which is why that expectation is important, because if the
perspective,
if the student athlete's proven that they are a full ride athlete, then the investment in Athlete's Dream is a great investment. And again, the average scholarship for our clients, it's about $40,000 a year on average that we have secured. So
nice.
Times that by 4, and all of a sudden you're telling, well, I paid $4,000. That really wasn't bad.
Right.
You just saved 160.
You
got to think of it long term, because with education, more so than sports, that's exactly what it is long term. It's not something that's going to happen now. It's something that you need to be dedicated to, and
absolutely.
Just to go to school costs money nowadays. I mean, we all know what's going on. It's tough.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of interest for international kids that want to come here for, like, specifically they want to come here because either the competition's more at a higher level and whatever sport it is?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the demand for internationals to come to America is so high because no other country has the NCAA.
Right.
And there's a whole rabbit hole to kind of dive down there. I've thank you to God, I've put together Athlete's Dream Online. It's been beyond a journey for real, but Athlete's Dream Online is destined to be the NCAA for the rest of the world. So athletesdream.com is our college consulting company, and athletesdreamonline.org is essentially to be the athlete eligibility center of the world.
Oh, okay.
So if you sort of imagine that you were in India or in South Korea, but you didn't want to leave your country to go to America, you'd rather stay at home. We've been able to connect the dots and partner with the biggest online university in the world. They're in London, called the Open University, and it's an all-encompassing and pretty big vision. It's sort of we want to get it going just one scholarship at a time, and we have some very exciting events coming up and stuff that we'll be able to talk about more in the future for sure. But that, like I said, it's another rabbit hole to dive down.
And on top of that too, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a Nigerian basketball player. Yeah. I mean, this young man was 6'10",
probably 15 years old,
size of a skyscraper. But what he kept stressing, he's sending me videos, and they're, looks like they're outside, cement's dilapidated. It is what it is, and they see pictures and just videos and just the blessings that we have here for sports complexes and facilities. And I think for them, that's like 80% of the dream is like, wow, that's just, they've never seen, quite literally never seen anything like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Never seen anything like a college campus in America. It's so special and unique what is here. In the NCAA, NAIA, and the JUCOs. I mean, the NJCAA is just the level of competition at the top end of that as well now. Yeah. People don't understand how good it is. You've got all these D1 quality kids that are just missing a credit or two, or they failed the SAT because they're just a full-on
for some
athlete.
minor reason or another, they're
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah.
NAIA, and they're absolutely balling out. But you look at them and you're like, man, that's D1 talent, like, all day.
And the MLS is recruiting straight out of
Yeah.
the NAIA now.
Yeah.
If you look at soccer and
Especially
stuff, and
female soccer, man. Those ladies out there are killing it. Man.
absolutely, yeah.
So what happens when the transition goes and they are off the college? Is that when you guys say good luck, or do you guys stay in touch with them? How does that work?
I like that question because I think traditionally, like people, traditionally from experience and seeing other companies, I think people sign up with an agent, and an agent or recruitment service gives them one offer and just says accept it, take it, go. We're obviously the complete opposite, and it's a very tailor-made fit. And then, especially for those coming internationally, I've even made a couple of trips. Like I went up to St. Louis, visited a young boy from Japan. I went up to Boston, visited a young girl from Japan. Built the relationship with their parents, and just so that once they arrived on campus, it wasn't just the volleyball team and the coach, or the soccer team and the coach. It was actually like, hey, the guy we worked with, who mum and dad knew, came and said hello as well, and just sort of sat with them in the college cafeteria, had a cup of coffee.
Bring a little bit of normal to
So we try to stay in touch with them all.
Sure.
I have this thing in my head where Athletes Dream, AD, we have the AD alumni, and it's like everyone who comes through. Sure, we're not an actual school,
right,
graduating our own kids, but I like the name of it. I like the idea of it. And or the AD family. Certainly once you become a part of AD, it's a long-term thing.
Ash really nailed it. I mean, it really is a family, because you talk to these kids and you talk to their parents, and you get a sense of who they are, characteristic wise, and okay, he's a jokester. This one's so serious, and then so just to go to college and be like, all right, kid, good luck. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's time invested, and it's a family, and it's. Like Ash was saying, like when we find the the recruiter, the candidates, a lot goes into it. Just from day one, just getting to know them and time, and so.
Yeah, I would say like the whole onboarding process, you probably, from your experience alone, can fill them in on a lot of expectations, so they don't show up there with like, what the hell?
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the first things we tend to go over is expectations with the parents, just to get everything on the table. If your child's not D1 and you're like, well, they're going to Clemson. Not with us. But that's like Ash touched on some of the websites that just kind of like, oh yeah, guarantee, we promise. How can you make that promise? You don't even know these people, you've never met them, and if it's just a click away, is it?
It's true.
Is
man.
it?
And to sort of dive into that a little bit, like in our athlete representation agreement, we touched on consulting fees, but we actually have an agreement that every family would engage in if they were willing, and we qualified them. Mm-hmm. The NCAA has a rule. It's like 12.3.3.1 in the NCAA handbook.
Look that one up.
Talent evaluation services and agents, and having seen things go, like I said, in the years prior to Athletes Dream, having seen families have success and also be let down in college recruitment, we figured from day one it was best to just be transparent, put the NCAA rule in our agreement where it has the terms, so everyone that ends up meeting Athletes Dream in the future, and we can't wait to meet you.
Hello in advance.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll be able to see that and just sort of see how we've carried the business from the start, and how we plan to carry it out, into the future too.
That section of the agreement itself is basically just the rules of the NCAA that we copy and paste, and it's really like that's what they say to do, so that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, it helps, because I'm sure so many people are lost in the whole information of being able to do that. I was just from listening to friends with experience of going through this. They'll say that they have this expectation, right? Like you're gonna and a lot of people that I've had experience with are so focused athletically. Obviously you have to have the grades to get in, but there's just so focused on like, we're going pro, baby. We're going pro. So that was kind of leads into the next question is like, there's only such a small percentage that actually go pro. So do you guys spend time with that expectation, like especially with the academic side? Like, yes, you're fully recruited for sports, for athletes, but long term you got to focus on like long term, like a career, because the chances are so small. And I'm sure a lot of kids are like, don't tell me that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the kids are always pretty gung-ho and want to go pro, and the parents are like, what are the academics like at the school? You know, what's the level of the academics
Yeah.
like?
Yeah.
So, no, for sure. I mean, I think I always, when a kid tells me that at 16 they want to go pro, I'm like, that's awesome, you know, because not every kid thinks that way.
Sure.
So if they're really there in that mindset and they're thinking that, it needs to be encouraged and nurtured.
Yeah, you don't want to necessarily shake them out of that.
Yeah.
Give them a
Yeah.
little dose of reality, but don't break the dream
But
at
I-
the same time.
Yeah, and then I just always still say, you got to go to school.
Yeah.
You got to get an education. So you can still go pro, but if you look at golf, I haven't done the stats in a few years, but some years back when my brother was on a couple of the tours, I would look at the PGA and, you know, 220 full or part-time tour cards, give or take, and I think it was like 200 of the guys were college grads.
Oh, wow.
Or had played on a college roster. So it's like, okay, unless you want to be in the 90% and maximize your chance of getting on the PGA Tour, and it's similar for the LPGA Tour, go to college.
Yeah.
You know, play college sport. It's the ultimate testing ground too, competitively. So
And I mean,
yeah.
we're all in, we're all in that same, age group. When we were watching sports, it was notorious that one and done. You
Yeah.
know, they do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
1 year in college because that's
they're
what,
out.
yeah, that was the rule or whatever.
Yeah.
I think, especially when you see so many of these athletes going broke at such a tremendous percentage, an economics class probably would have helped that.
Yeah.
That 4-year degree would have gave you something to fall back on, at least, that you could do something instead of just having to, potentially go back to school. Now, I think, that people call it, that little piece of paper.
Yeah.
And it really does hold so much value and give you such a leg up to have that little piece of paper and
Yeah.
Absolutely.
being a diploma,
Yep.
but it's crucial.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
Well,
it
I didn't
does.
even know. A few years ago, Ricky Fowler had posted, not posted, but they did a thing on the Golf Channel where his home school, I think it was Auburn or something, one of the
Okay.
golf facilities.
Yep.
But it was a whole show that showed the golf team traveling and playing, and I didn't know. I mean, obviously you guys do because this is your business, but how their facilities and what private jets, they're
Yeah.
top notch.
It's epic.
So
Absolutely.
any advice I could give is, you won't realize how much you can take advantage of that until after. You look back
Absolutely.
and be like, damn, I could have spent
They
6
treat-
years there.
Yeah. those top schools, they're treating them like pro athletes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Absolutely.
trip. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, even if some of the schools that are further north, because I know if you looked at golf, priority to be in
Right.
the sun, but
Right.
even some of the schools in the snow, they have the most phenomenal indoor facilities. Like Xavier University, we had a kid go there.
It's professionals.
yeah,
Yeah, shout out Jack.
Yeah, he was looking forward to some snow, and the indoor facilities, unbelievable.
Really?
They're unbelievable. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, even like you were saying earlier, with some of the varsity athletes and the way just it almost is like junior college nowadays. Being a varsity senior,
Yeah.
just with the clubs alone and the spikes and the clothes. I mean, these
Yeah.
kids are fresh, they're fitted. It's
yeah.
it's like, bro, you spent $2,500 on the clubs. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
Gucci?
Yeah, right.
we had a girl last fall, fall 21. Zali Adams took a full ride to Quinnipiac as a softball pitcher, and I mean, she sent pictures. I'll have a messenger Facebook group with the parents and the student athlete. That's how close we are, and so on. She's sending through photos of her locker just full of Adidas Quinnipiac, cleats and hats and shirts.
Everything,
And
right?
I think her opening game, she pitched at Yale 2 weekends ago. They shut Yale out. No one from Quinnipiac had ever done that, and this
Oh,
young
sweet.
South Australian girl.
Now they do.
Goes
Yeah,
Ollie.
right.
Goes Ollie.
It's athlete's dream.
Yeah. Is
it.
there a certain sport that gives more scholarships than others? I mean, I know you said with
Yep.
baseball, the main one's baseball, basketball, those would probably hand over fist. But
Yeah.
is there more? Is there something else?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Definitely, the women have more access to scholarship than the men.
So football.
Yeah, football
Football.
has so much for the men, and they've got to spread it out evenly for the males and the
Right.
females. And there's no female equivalent roster size to football programs.
Right.
So there's more full rides for female soccer, softball, lacrosse, track and field, swimming.
Which I
golf,
think
tennis.
I think that's a fact that's slept on a lot too. That a lot of people
Yeah.
don't really put that together. It's
Yeah, and it's a big, interesting kind of fact.
Yeah.
It's a lot of scholarship dollars that are available. we had a girl the other day turn down the Citadel. I mean, who turns down a full ride to the Citadel?
I know. I wasn't even going. I was Googling it, like
I tried to
falling in
convince them
love.
to take it. Yeah, I was trying to convince the parents to take it. It's one of 6 military schools in the United States. Do you realize the history of this place?
Yeah,
But you can lead the horse to water.
yeah.
But I guess for boys, I mean, football, basketball,
Yeah,
for
those are the
sure.
main
And
ones.
that's where the TV dollars are. I mean, that's I'm still waiting for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys to call since I've been like 6. So I mean, we're in America. It's football.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, since you guys have been to so many different universities, over 90, you have almost up 100 that people are actually in the campus. Do you come across where they just rely on your experience on that campus without even actually going there? I mean, are they comfortable enough? Like,
We've had a couple now. Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of repeat athletes.
Yeah.
Like off the top, I know like Illinois State D1 school. We've had like track and field and golfers there. And then even Jacksonville, like I mentioned, we just had the softball girl take a full ride to Jacksonville, but they just graduated a female lacrosse goalkeeper who we had placed there 4 years ago as well, Sharon Muffet. So she was a good player
Schlicks
there.
as well.
Yeah, and the Schlicks, yeah, the swim.
That's a family story right there.
That it, yeah, like I mean, and this is actually interesting because this is 3 swimmers who all now are on full rides at ASU, USC, and Texas A&M, and the sister at USC is the captain of the swim team now, and all 3 of them so they're that good, but they didn't have one offer. They're all seniors,
Oh, wow.
juniors, sort of when we met them, and. Their father was an attorney down in Melbourne, Australia, good guy, on the board of like a pro football team, kind of, as a sort of relative thought. He's a great guy, but again, his kids are just that good at swimming, and no offers, absolutely
That's
no
crazy.
offers, and honestly, that started helping Gemma, the eldest one, who's now at USC first, and I mean, 3 months, and she had full rides to a dozen top 50 D1 schools, like. It was tricky because I sometimes when the kids are swimming times that good, or you have a track kid that's running that good, you're literally kind of beating the coaches off. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, for real.
You're just like, all right, everybody get in line.
Yeah.
now, do you guys have like a back-end database that you like send the resumes for the students to the contacts, or is it set up differently?
I think that's like a lot of people do it that way. We and then the guys in our team that work on the placement stuff, I've always coached them to do it very personally.
Personalize is the word I had in mind.
Yeah.
And even though it takes just so much more time, and by communicating with every coach one-on-one, and then calling them, talking to them, the old sports agent style, Jerry Maguire style, literally picking up the phone and talking to people,
and I feel like most people know when you get that blanket email. Like you're like, all right, 7,000 other people just got this email.
Generic email.
Yeah. So we take the time because you took the time. We take the time.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I noticed on your guys' website, it obviously has a lot of the athletes' profiles on there. And I noticed there was
sure.
some newer ones that are, I think, 2023 is 2 years away from graduating that haven't been accepted yet. But are you using the website as like a profile database to for people to, look at this? And
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and definitely for families to have a look at and use as a guiding point. Like, okay, that's my daughter plays softball, or my son's a track runner. There's an example site, and they can see how they would be presented too. And I mean, it's fascinating because I sort of touched on it earlier. It's like there are many recruitment companies out there, and you can build a profile on different sites and so on. And I've sort of seen the game inside and out, but it really comes down to the relationships with the coaches. And that's the biggest thing that we always harp on, and actually having that agent that's putting the time in to really communicate.
Well, I mean,
the
most
good and the bad with
I'm
you
not
too throughout.
Sure.
I'm not going to generalize or anything, but most of these, and they are websites that you can sign up with, and it's $500 or whatever the deal of the day is. You can't even contact these people. Like, there's nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
There's no like you were saying, like a database on our website. There's nobody in college gear. There's nobody signing an acceptance letter.
Right.
So.
It's a good point. I mean, we've also tried to make a point of celebrating our athletes in
Absolutely.
the college kit. So, once they're on campus, putting up a story of them winning a race, or actually competing on the field. It's
even just in,
tangible.
just a picture of like just enjoying that college life.
Yeah,
If they're at game day or whatever it may be,
Sure.
Taco Tuesday with the friends. That's
Yep.
that's part of going to college. Even if you're
Yeah.
going to be an athlete, you're like, all right, cool.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. Growing up a little bit, your first apartment or whatever it may be, a little bit of independent lifestyle. There's a lot going on, and I think we were talking about earlier with does it end at college, and that just kind of makes it hard too, because there's a lot on both sides that you share and talk about and guide through, and that doesn't just kind of go away at the end. But I think just getting to the university is half of the fun too for these kids.
Sure.
Absolutely. And when they're on the journey with their friends and they're all trying to get recruited, and one starts getting a letter, another one gets a recruitment email, and they're kind of competing at school.
Especially with social media now, you'll start
Yeah.
seeing the envelopes with the different logos start popping up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At what age do you guys start sending out that? I mean, because you've heard of I just heard through the news and other articles and stuff of freshmen, like, oh, there's going to be a first recruit at freshman year, sophomore. I mean, when do you actually start sending out stuff to universities?
I mean, yeah, the earliest has been freshman year.
Okay.
I will say I've never represented someone as an 8th grader, but once they've hit freshman year, 9th grade, and I'm confident and comfortable providing the athlete has given us enough information, and we're like satisfied that their website's able to be built to a certain standard as well.
Right.
I'm always comfortable and confident putting the athlete in front of the coach as a freshman in high school for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely not a revolving door situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just please sign up with us kind of thing. Like, we're not going to sell you a fake dream. Like, oh yeah, your kid's good enough, and then never get an offer, because what does that reflect on athlete's dream at the end of the day? It's just-
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, it's crazy how good these kids are, and I didn't realize that until I started coaching, because it's like, and I didn't even learn this till this year, but so the varsity team at our school, there's 2 7th graders. I'm a high school coach. 2 7th graders are on the varsity team playing, and I'm like,
wow.
And
I
so that
don't
means
know what they feed them.
And
that means they beat out my whole team, which like they're shooting even par, 1 under, 2 under, and they're and a 7th grader.
Yep.
I can imagine size difference might make a difference on bigger courses, but it's just like
Still,
holy crap, like
Yeah, they're trending pretty well. They're and that's one cool thing in America. In golf, you play off the right tees.
Yeah.
So the kids can score well at a young age. It's a really good system.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
So what's next? So I know you said you could talk on it a little bit later, but what's the vision for the world profile, for the requirements that can you talk a little bit about like the idea of that as far as having
athlete stream online? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of, I will say God put it on my heart in early 2013. I was in Paris at UNESCO, the United Nations Education, Science, Cultural Organization, and I was speaking to a pretty important figurehead with regard to world sport and team sports and anti-doping. And when I presented to him the idea of all these athletes internationally go into the NCAA, and I said I have this idea that what if there were systems in every single country to keep their athletes in their home countries. The best ones would still want to go to certain colleges, but many kids would love to stay in their home country with their friends and family and be able to study
their
and
culture
play.
and their language. It's just natural.
So when I put that across the table at that point in 2013, I was kind of met with you're talking about a solution to a massive global problem. To hear that from the UN was like, okay, ding. I think I caught the train that day from it was like Paris back to Geneva, and I was just staring out the window like, wow, this is going to be a journey. And, 8 years later, we're sort of just getting ready to launch it, but it's amazing. Like I mentioned, we have the Open University on site as the deliverer of the education worldwide. They already have 2 million students, and they just graduated a Team Hong Kong sailor. So that's validation of the model right there. That sailor had to pay for her own education.
Right.
There was no company in Hong Kong sponsoring her education, so her and her family paid for it. But that's just validation of exactly what we're pursuing here.
Sure.
It was just sort of one Hong Kong sailor, but
How does that work are they doing the academic part online?
Studying
online to get their academic requirements, and then how do they play because I'm just envisioning how it's
For
here.
sure.
College is here. You have a campus
Yep.
here. You play at this. But if there's
Yep.
not an actual physical location, how does that
Yep.
work?
Yeah. So one example of something I'm strategizing here is like
Yeah.
in India, they have cricket, and I grew up playing cricket in Australia. In India, it's a religion. I mean, it's just everything, and so. But they have a club structure for all the cricket in India. There's just no education attached to it.
Oh, gotcha.
So the youngsters can keep playing, male and female, in their existing club structures. So we're not actually tampering with any of the existing like sporting
Athletic
systems.
Park, right.
Just adding the online university
Oh,
component
look at
over
that.
the top.
Yeah.
The education part.
Yeah. Oh, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. Like I said, it's taken a long time and a few different attempts. A few different names as well. Like it's Athlete Stream Online, but there was a couple of different names along the way. 2013, 2017.
I always tell them, I said, don't worry about it. Even Nike changed their logo. Don't
Yeah,
worry
yeah.
about it.
You grow into it,
Yeah,
You have
exactly.
different ideas. It's the
That's
same
it.
with
That's it.
Elevated. It's just it changes as it grows.
Yeah, and I love your brand, man.
Nah,
I think
thank
it
you.
looks so cool, and
Thank you.
thankful you gave us the opportunity to speak here today.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I share with I try to talk with the kids on my team. It's just a little team, but I just try and share my journey of coming up with like an elevated lifestyle and how kids could really benefit from it. Starting early, which you look back at it as you get older and all the dumb shit that I did then. It's like now I can help you guys.
Right.
Don't do this dumb shit. So that's
awesome.
I might not have the answer, but I know what the answer isn't.
Yeah, exactly. I can tell you from just like a lot of coaches say, I can tell you from how I learned from my mistakes. So it's it's been a journey, as you say, of
awesome.
how to express that and do this podcast to try and get the word out of
sure.
of just how to live a elevated, healthy lifestyle.
Yep.
It's been really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We're definitely the same way, man. I mean, it's they're fun to mess with and pick on, especially if you got like little cousins or whatever. But these I don't even know if I want to call them kids, young men and women. There's a special to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't think they quite comprehend what it is yet. And it usually takes you to get to 20, 25, you're like, man, I'm an idiot. That's not how you're supposed to do that. But
sure.
a lot of these kids, they got that diamond in the rough in their eye, and they just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And they're just a lot of that goes to anger, whatever it may be. But it's just cool to see other people on our journey like yourself. That's like, man, let's try to help these kids out so they don't have to do
Absolutely.
what we had to go through. I
Yeah,
think that's a big part of it. If you're in youth sports and that's coaching or whatever, and that's not what you're there for, probably got to look at that.
Probably not there for the right reasons.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a trip when I got, because I have two kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, but
Nice.
so they're not on the older kids yet. But it really brought me back when I started doing the JV golfing coach of like, it brings me back to when I was 14, when I was 15, when I was in, in those, and it's just like, it's a flashback because it's like you're saying, it's like you look back and I thought I knew everything.
Right.
When I was 18,
Oh,
you
I
could
was a
not
genius.
tell me. And I look back now, I'm like, oh boy. So it's a trip to
high school sport was just everything.
Yeah,
though.
Yes.
You have the
Yes.
flashback to
Yes.
playing. And it's just everything.
yeah, exactly. So it's a trip to see, and like you're saying, they're just like a open canvas. Like you realize, some of them, just the different personalities and how they learn and how they act and the emotions, and
Absolutely.
it's
Some of these kids are 15 going on 40.
it's
what I mean?
crazy,
It's
man.
nuts.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
social media and the access
Yep.
to education that they have now, it's
Just
like
the world.
You were
Yeah.
talking to that young, he's a defensive back up in Vero Beach. He's like,
Yeah.
he's just a big boy, like.
Yeah, he was a junior. I'd shout him out, but I really can't remember his name right now. 6'6", 240, 250.
Yeah.
oh my goodness. That's
And then
crazy.
what
Yeah,
about the
a junior.
golfer? The kid was 6'10" playing golf. I was
Like,
like,
he's got like extended clubs.
this
and
is
for real,
basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome.
right.
You just have to reach up and put it in the
Just
hoop.
put it in. That's it.
Playing the wrong sport, but he's like, no, man, that's. And I was talking to him, and he's like, no, I love basketball. I mean, I'm 6'10". That's all they've had me play. He's like, but I love golf.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, man, I can't.
Can't
do
argue
your
with
thing
that.
then, man. Play golf.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yep.
So with this new with the new law or rule they just implemented for the NCAA for athletes to be able to get paid now.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that we've talked about it, I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that would lead into your guys, because you guys kind of wash your hands when they get into the university. But since that is such a new thing, I don't know if you guys have thought about different ways, or if you think that might maybe get the whole idea of focusing on money rather than education. Like, I don't know if you kind of went down
Right.
that aspect. Like, don't worry about making T-shirts and selling your name. Why don't you worry about getting educated? And so, how do you guys feel about the whole thing?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I felt like guys like Dan Patrick were talking about it for years, and then they finally did it. And I think that it will be massive in football, basketball.
Yeah.
Again, those two big ones, football and basketball. I don't know what the rule is regarding equality across male and female pay. I haven't looked into that.
From what I've seen, it's more or less, like Title IX, just whatever's on one side's the other side. It's
Right.
just-
But I don't feel like it's going to impact golf or tennis or track and swimming. It's like a real football basketball thing, I think.
Yeah, because there's just more eyes on it, right? Because you have a stadium full of 100,000 students looking at the players rather
TV
than
dollars.
at golf where there's nobody out there.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
every Saturday and Sunday, you turn on NBC, ABC, CBS, football's on.
That's
And I mean
it,
those guys and girls playing football, the guys playing football, the guys and girls playing basketball at that top, you call it the top 25 D1s.
Right.
The pro athletes in a college. I mean, and the amount of people watching them, the amount of eyes and the media. I mean, they deserve to get a little bit more reward.
And the top 100 is really the top 25 at any given time. I mean, these kids are just specimens.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have
Yeah.
you ran across that? I mean, it's such a new rule. I mean, it just kicked in this year. Have you ran across that where they're like, do you know anything about this? Should we try to market my name? Have they came to you about that yet?
Not me personally.
No, I
Yeah,
haven't
it's so
seen.
new
I haven't
still.
seen it yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's going to be more of a situation, if anything, like Ash was saying, football and basketball, and probably later in the high school. Probably more so, senior, maybe junior. If you're, top 100 recruit or 5-star recruit, then yeah. But before that, no. And I mean, personally, I think Reggie Bush should get his Heisman back if that's the rules we're making. I mean, they screwed a lot of people over with that.
Big time, right?
Yep.
There's
So-
a lot of money left on the table. Yeah.
I mean, if you know that, athlete X is number 2, and then you just say, Florida State starts printing number 2 jerseys, they're buying it for the athlete. So God bless them, man. Let them collect something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome, guys. Well, the last thing I did want to mention to you was, since we brought up the making money for the kids,
Right.
and I was going to mention to you before we started recording what was for the NFT, which is also the crypto space,
Yeah,
the blockchain,
absolutely.
Bitcoin space. And did I read? Do you have a background in finance, or did I read something else? No.
No.
Okay.
We have a guy on our team as well who's local, Mike Williams.
Yeah.
That's maybe who I saw.
He's done
Yeah,
good
yeah,
finance
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Okay.
I know Nick's big in crypto
Yeah,
too.
man,
Nick's
it's the future.
So
big
you've
in
been down the
crypto.
rabbit hole for it? Because I just got in rabbit hole deep in it the last 6 weeks. So
Okay, cool. Nice. I probably bought my first coin, late 2018, early 2019. So
okay.
I try not to tell anybody, but now that I just put that out on the podcast,
Yeah.
don't
awesome.
call me for money.
Yeah, right. So you've been following. Obviously, you invested back then, but have you kept up with how fast it's accelerating now?
It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm on my phone 50 times a day, just refreshing Coinbase or whatever app you're on. But,
Yeah.
the speed it's moving at is kind of scary.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's really now that I'm in it and I'm really learning about it. It is going to change everything. It will change
the
everything.
NFT stuff I've seen popping up more and more. It looks
Yeah,
super
man.
cool. I've
Yeah.
seen a couple of awesome things locally pop up as well that look
Yeah.
really.
That's kind of why I brought it up, just for
Yeah.
any students listening, just because I had mentioned I bought the first NFT from Kool-Aid McKinstry from
Yeah, that's
Alabama.
so
He was in
nice.
high school, and
Shout
he
out.
created that. And
Yeah.
it's just to plant a seed in any student that's listening to this idea. But it's these athletes, him for an example, he came out with an NFT project, which is basically digital art, and it's just a playing card. So it has
Right.
you collected a hologram
awesome.
football card before. It's the same thing in
Yeah.
a digital aspect. It
Love
kind of
the
spins
holograms.
around. I'll show it to you after this. It looks kind of cool. But it's really fascinating for the utility of it, because what got me into the whole crypto world was NFTs.
Mhm.
And originally it was just digital art. Like, you hear about these crazy pieces selling for millions of dollars.
Right,
You can just download that off Google. What's the big thing? But then when you jump into it, and a lot of people are putting utility behind it,
Right.
which means, for different
Serves a purpose of
serves a purpose.
something.
So artists, for people that are making albums or singing, you can buy their NFT, which would be a picture of the cover of the album, and it's going to give you utility on the back end where you get a 10% royalty.
Well, I
every
mean, they
time.
do
That's
it
awesome.
anyways.
It's awesome.
Most albums are bundled now, anyways. Where you buy it off, Spotify or Apple Music, whatever it may be, and you get a shirt or 10% off a ticket if you wish to redeem it. Or so.
Same thing, yeah.
Show me the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, so to plan any, especially the younger kids, because all this, the NFT space is, I think it's like changing the world. But when you look back, it's been around for 20 years in World of Warcraft and all these Sim City and spending money in these
Virtual
games.
reality.
Yeah. Awesome.
So if I could plant any seeds, guys, for any of the college athletes, is look at like your own playing card. If you're something easy and something like in the future to do as getting your name out there and especially if you have like a epic run back touchdown or a picture of that, like that stuff is cool, man. It's memorabilia, and it's really changing. It's taking all the control out of the big heads and giving it to yourself,
decentralized to the
and that's what it's all about. And it's really
and
cool.
NFTs, they're really changing the medium. People buy artwork. It's a one of a
Same
kind.
thing, right?
No one painted two of those. Well, no one created two of these NFTs. You can screenshot it, but you can get a watercolor of the Mona Lisa too. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how crypto and blockchain is just inundating into like the industrial world.
The Mona Lisa is overrated in real life.
Yeah, buy NFTs. Don't worry about oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry to the Louvre. But
It probably looks better on a 4K TV than
Absolutely.
it does in person.
Is that a curve?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Awesome, guys. Well, anything else you want to add? Any, I guess, where's the best place any student listening, how can they find you? What's the best way? Social media?
Absolutely.
Handles?
athletesdream.com, of course, the website, and on Instagram we're Athletes Dream Co.
Yep.
With a CO on the end, so Athletes Dream Co.
And I'm Nick_AthletesDream.
Absolutely.
Our phones are available. I mean, I have no problem giving that out. 561-633-5993. My phone's always on. Ask my fiance; she can verify that. But no, seriously. I mean, even
Rochelle's
if
lovely.
she is. Shout out to Rochelle, my beautiful fiance. It's no joke. Like if you have questions, you hear the podcast and you're like, man, I don't know if I want to sign up, but I do have questions. Call us, email us,
Absolutely.
hit us on IG. Like consultations are free. We are here to help you. You're dealing with two ex-athletes who maybe had the sauce, maybe didn't, weren't represented, so it really wouldn't have mattered. And we've both been on a hell of a sports journey. From I've coached youth. Ash has played semi-pro. I played high school football.
Yep.
If you have a sports problem, more than likely we have an answer. So
we'll be able to relate.
Yeah, just reach out, man. And that's parents too. I mean, we're here to help.
Cool.
We're here to
Nicely
answer
said,
questions,
mate.
whatever
Yeah.
you need.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'll be sure to put all that in the show notes so everybody can click on the link and get to you
Absolutely.
directly.
Thanks,
I
Alex.
really appreciate you taking the time and
Yeah,
coming
man.
on.
Hope to
And
see you
we'll
again.
have to do it
Thanks
again,
to
guys.
Alex
Absolutely.
and Elevated Lifestyle Lab.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Shout out
that's
to Elevate
awesome.
Lifestyle. Alex,
Thank you.
thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thanks
We'll
so
see you
much.
next time.
Cheers.